Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Mobalytics video. We now only have a few months left of Season 11 to push and climb as high as we can to chase those end of season rewards and bragging rights. We're going to be going over a list of champions who you can learn easily and then put your teammates on your back and carry your way to that next ranking tier. So first off, we have Jhin. What a unique champion. A marksman with an ammo system whose whole kit is designed to burst and pick enemies off, 4 bullets at a time. Jhin is definitely one of those champions that you can carry on. His ability to lane bully is not to be underappreciated, and if you don't respect him in the early game, you're definitely going to regret it. Despite Jhin being a bit different to most AD carries, he's actually pretty simple. You have 4 auto attacks, the 4th one dealing huge burst and execute damage, and then you've got your W and ultimate to burst down and catch out enemies from a longer range. Despite him having a good amount of skill shots, they don't actually take long to get used to, so he's pretty easy to pick up and just start smashing the rift on. Jhin can contribute to fights from pretty far away, so if things are looking a bit spicy, you can still use your W and your ultimate to pick up kills and pick off enemies who are trying to escape. Once Jhin's got a few items, he becomes super hard to deal with. He can time his combat around his burst and ammo, and once he's picked up that Gale Force and Collector, all of his strengths are now even stronger. He becomes an executing powerhouse. I'm sure you've all played against a fed Jhin before and had a really tough time dealing with his movement and burst and general damage overall, so it's time for you to pick him up and become that player you've been struggling against. Push your limits with this champion and you'll be rewarded with pools of LP. So if we've just spoken about Jhin, why not pick up someone who is an excellent lane partner for him? The first support we're going to talk about today is the most obvious one of the lot, Blitzcrank. Is he easy to learn? Yep. Is he strong early game? Yep. Can you carry with him? Absolutely. Blitzcrank is the definition of a champion who can win games by himself. From early invades picking up gold leads or forcing summoner spells to that huge late game hook picking off their fed AD carry. This is the champion to play if you want balls to the wall aggression with a huge payout. So why should you play Blitzcrank and why is he easy to play? I mean, he's literally picked for his Q. All you need to do is learn his hook range and the speed and you're good to go. The rest of his kit is super basic and it's pretty much just a follow up to his Q. Wait, what happens if you miss your Q though? Wait a little while and use it again and again until you hit it and take out your enemies. In the early game, Blitzcrank has the biggest lane presence out of almost all support champions. Just holding that hook in your back pocket is enough to scare AD carries out of farm and make those squishy support players tremble in their tiny little boots. Getting a level lead and landing those hooks almost always leads to kills, and then that leads to a rolling snowball that the enemies simply can't recover from. If you pair up Blitzcrank with an aggressive bursty AD carry that can delete enemies when you hook them in, this is an even better way to win games for free. Blitzcrank can easily roam to the mid lane or even further if you want to, and pick off those other lanes and give your teammates an easy advantage that way too. If you still need any other reason to pick up Blitzcrank, well, in the rest of the game the hook can decide who wins or loses. If you're contesting vision over a Baron and you land a good hook, it's now a 4v5 and a near enough free Baron. Barons usually means inhibs, and inhibs win games. Beat boop. Next up on the list we have Nocturne. What a season he has had so far. He has been dominating those tier lists on and off for most of season 11 with great reason too. Nocturne has always been an insanely strong clearer and ganker. He can shred camps with his passive and has one of the best level 6 ganking ultimates in the entire game. Nocturne's kit is actually pretty easy to get along with. You have a fear tether on your E, your Q for some damage and movement speed, and a cheeky spell shield to hit on your W when you're expecting incoming abilities. Nocturne's semi-global ultimate is really why he's on this list though. You can set up ganks or counter gank from pretty far away distance, meaning you can always be around to deny the enemy team, getting an advantage, and even turn the tables completely in your favour. Nocturne is someone you will want to focus on getting to level 6, but definitely consider ganking beforehand and picking up some early damage or forcing early summoner spells, so that then when you do have your ultimate, you can absolutely abuse your enemies. Nocturne's damage is insane if you get far ahead due to camping and ganking often. You can instantly one-shot carries with your ultimate going into the mid to late game. Not only all of this, but Nocturne also destroys objectives easily, so he has no problem hacking down those dragons and working towards that infamous dragon soul. If you main jungle in season 11 and haven't played this champion yet, you really need to ask yourself why. Nocturne is an amazing choice to carry with and super easy to learn. Next up we have Annie. Annie is another champion who floats up and down in the League of Legends meta, but somehow always manages to break through, and when she does, she's absolutely disgusting to play against. When playing Annie you have one main job, and that's going to help you carry games on your own. 2 words, flash tibbers. This is the bread and butter way to play Annie, and everything else in her kit is very self-explanatory. Use your Q to farm and harass, W for some AoE, E to escape or engage. Annie's ability to flash ult and delete entire teams has always been her win condition, even back in the days when she was religiously played as a support. These days, Annie just deals a crazy amount of damage, and the AoE stun is so instant it's almost impossible to play against, especially if you don't have flash. In the lane phase, Annie can constantly look for kill opportunities by racking up her stuns and poking her enemies down with her auto attacks and Q. Annie has a ton of movement speed from her E, so she can dart in and out whenever she pleases, and can often simply outrun any aggression towards her. Annie has ridiculous kill potential throughout the early game, and can easily roam to other lanes and have big ultimates to snowball even further. I mean, put it this way, you're playing Annie, you've got a decent lead from abusing her early game strengths, and now there's about to be a fight over a major objective. You walk up, flash tibbers an entire team, kill their priority targets, take out the objective, and now you and your team are ridiculously far ahead. That, my friends, is the definition of carrying. Definitely give this champion a go. Moving on, we have Wukong. Wukong is another champion who's been around in League of Legends for over a decade. He has amazing team fighting ultimate that can win games by itself when it's used correctly. A well-timed engage onto a whole team can set up that game-winning fight, or Wukong can simply just assassinate an important target with his mobility and burst. Wukong is really easy to pick up because his kit design is simple. E and Q to trade, W to escape, ultimate to all in. In the lane phase, Wukong focuses on jumping in and out of trades, bursting down his opponent, and burning them down until he can take them out. Once he gains a kill lead, he becomes so difficult to deal with, and by the time the jungler comes to help out, Wukong can easily 1v2 or even 1v3 with his ultimate, or simply escape with his clones. Bringing more opposition to your lane is an easy way to carry games, especially if you can kill them in the process. Wukong also has one of the best teleport ganking ultimates in the entire game, similar to that of a Malphite. However, Wukong can actually use his twice. A well-timed teleport gank can lead to the destruction of enemy players' attitudes and easily gain access to objectives and structures after decimating the opposition. Wukong is very straightforward to learn, but also has a ton of creative uses with his clone and his mobility as a whole. He's also really good at diving, preventing dives on himself, and setting up ganks or fights for his team. Definitely consider picking up this champion if you want one with undeniable contribution and an obvious way to carry games throughout all stages. Next up on the list, we have Ziggs. If you're looking for a new bot laner to pick up, then this is the Yordle for you. Wait, but he's not an AD carry? Nope, and welcome to Season 11. Ziggs has been destroying bot laners this season, and that isn't stopping anytime soon. His damage is insane, his poke is relentless, and his scaling is absolutely out of this world. There has never been a safer pick than Ziggs in the bot lane in this current meta. And if your teammates are packing some frontline and some peel, you simply never need to get close enough to be killed, whilst dishing out constant unforgiving poke damage. All you need to do to play Ziggs is basically just spam your abilities like they're going out of fashion. Throw out your Q, auto attacks, and rest of your abilities constantly, and watch as your enemies try not to uninstall in the process. Ziggs has a pretty strong lane phase even for someone who isn't known for their early game strengths, and he's so hard to get hold of when paired with any kind of support, which is one of the main reasons why he's seen so much more success in the bottom lane. He has unrivaled wave clear and can rinse down minion waves to work towards those few items that he needs to burn down and demolish enemy teams with ease. So, carrying games on Ziggs is actually pretty simple. Just as we mentioned earlier, whether it's in lane or team fights, your main goal is to spam the floor with as many bombs as you can and dealing as much AoE damage as possible. If you're looking for a pick which is pretty obvious how to play it, but it works into most team compositions and you generally want to do the most damage in your games, then this is the pick for you. Sit back, poke your enemies down, farm up, and delete everyone you see in the process. Next up, we've got another mid laner, and this time it's Malzahar. Yep, that champion that nobody likes to play against. Malzahar brings incredible wave clear, shove potential, and insane single target CC with his ultimate. So why actually is Malzahar on this list? Well, to be honest, he's so easy to play, even my nan could probably play him, and she's never played a game of League of Legends in her life, to my knowledge. Malzahar is so easy to carry games with. The main reason for this is his ability to completely shut down an important target with his ultimate. No matter how fed they are, he can remove them from the game. In the early game, Malzahar can pin his lane opponent in with his ridiculous push potential and keep them under control whilst looking to roam and pick off enemies with his ultimate. As Malzahar, you can farm so easily with your dots and watch those minions die as your gold rolls in like Rammus. More easy gold, more damage, and more wins in solo queue. Once you've got a lead as Malzahar, it becomes so easy to carry. Your dots will deal stupid amounts of damage, and you'll simply just burn your enemies off before they even realise it's happening to them. Your main way to carry in team fights is to spam your AoE abilities, burning people down, and just press R on the main enemy threat. Job done. Malzahar is definitely one of the easiest champions to pick up, and his contribution to winning games and carrying games is impossible to argue with. A definite worthy champion for this list. Next up, we've got Xerath. Now, if you've ever bot laned against a support Xerath, you will already understand just how frustrating it is to play against. Constant relentless poke is infuriating and can easily make you tilt and want to FF and go next. Now, despite Xerath being completely skill shot based, he's actually very basic in the way that he plays. Sit in lane and poke your enemies down as much as you can without getting killed in the process. There is nothing really else you have to think about, apart from spamming those abilities and ruining your enemy bot laner's day. Xerath's long range poke and harass is easily enough to carry bot games by yourself. You can whittle your opponents down and either force them back home, missing out on gold and experience, or just kill them on repeat. As you all know, securing an early gold lead is such an easy way to win games, and Xerath is definitely the king of this. Constantly poking down and killing your enemies is never going to allow your opponents to recover, and you will just swallow the game up whole with your insane damage and gold advantage. Xerath can also contribute really easily to other lanes once he's level 6, and fire off ultimates into the mid lane with just a few steps up the river. Even if your team has no other form of magic damage, you will simply force them to itemize against you. If they don't buy any magic resist, you will absolutely tear through their health pools with just a few good spells. Xerath's way of carrying games is pretty unique for a support. It's nothing to do with his peel or utility, it's purely a case of damage and poke. If you're looking for a champion to tilt your enemy AD carry off the face of the earth and carry games because the enemy's mentals just collapse in a puddle, Xerath is the one for you. Next up we have Vi, and Vi is another champion who's been in the game for a ridiculous amount of time, but she always pops up now and again when the meta allows it. However, her kit and design has always been strong and always been able to stomp and carry games. Vi has seen a real resurgence in Season 11 and people have finally started remembering just how strong she can actually be, especially when she's ahead. Now, although Vi's Q is a skill shot, it's really easy to get used to. Aside from that, her kit is very straightforward and pretty obvious to how it works, especially when it comes to her point and click ultimate, so you won't be wasting several games just getting the hang of her. Vi's ganks are immensely strong. She has high damage CC ability pre-6 in her Q that also displaces opponents and pushes them back into her teammates. Once Vi does hit level 6, she's basically impossible to play against and it becomes super difficult to deal with her once she started snowballing. When playing Vi, even if you're not that far ahead, you are always still going to have the option to carry games by yourself. You have the ability to lock down and take out at least one target in fights. So if a particular enemy on the enemy team is super fed, make it your job to take them out of the equation. Vi also deals with objectives really fast pretty early on to the game due to her W and her passive shielding. Securing those early dragons helps you work towards Dragon Soul, which as we all know is a massive win condition in modern League of Legends. Vi is also an amazing pick when you're partnered with champions with long range or just general burst. Due to Vi's reliable ultimate and follow-up, this gives her teammates a ton of time to burn down those enemies and win fights with that alone, even from a distance. Last on the list for today, we have Sett. An absolute unit of a champion, and he's been incredibly popular and strong since his arrival in January 2020. Sett has a ridiculous amount of damage, crowd control and survivability in his kit, and all of it is actually pretty straightforward to use. In the lane phase you can abuse your early strengths with your auto attacks Q and E, and then finish that off with your W to deal a huge amount of damage alongside its hefty shield. It's pretty easy to pick up early kills on Sett in most lanes to get an instant lead and then translate that into a snowball for the rest of the early game. Once you've gained a lead, you can play ridiculously aggressive, constantly picking fights with your lane opponent and bringing other opposition to your lane. Sett is absolutely devastating in 1 vs 2 and 1 vs 3 scenarios, and can easily outplay enemies who are diving him due to his crazy damage and survivability, especially from his W. Not only this, but you also have the option to teleport to the bot lane or to dragon fights and impose your lead that way. Whichever option allows you to maximise your impact and carry games on your own. The best thing about Sett is you have such a versatile way to teamfight, and it's really easy to do. Pick yourself a target and ult them into their allies, group them up with your E, and use your W to deal a crazy amount of damage and carry the fights for your team. The funniest and best part about carrying on Sett is just how much his W does. Genuinely, you can one-shot anyone at any point in the game if you're far ahead enough. This will allow you to turn any fights that you shouldn't win into your favour and carry those games that didn't even seem like they were carryable. Alright guys, that's going to bring us to the end of this list for today. We really hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully it helps you guys rank up before the end of Season 11. Good luck and take care.